Bonjour, fellas. So I did 2 days this week, as you can see from the title, but one of the days was spent working on this reference sheet that you see before you, and that took like 2 hours, so that's the only footage that's on screen right now, because I didn't want to do it, I didn't want it to go too fast. I got distracted by the buzzing. It's my guy Quincy. There he is. I love him. You may be able to hear clattering in the background. People are doing dishes. I didn't finish this reference sheet completely in 2 hours, so it looks a lot different in the end. You'll see that eventually. That's not what this video is about, though. I've been working on reference sheets. I have 4 more I need to do. I've started on 1. I still haven't done like 3, and that's been taking up a lot of my time. Plus, stop buzzing. I need to turn on Do Not Disturb. I'm sorry. Plus, I won't be able to work on my comic for a few days in this following week, and all of these circumstances have led to me pushing back the release date of my comic, probably to fall, maybe even winter, who knows. I may have to push it back to 2022, and it'll probably take a few years after that for it to be completely finished, so I'm going to be working on this comic for a good long while. It was a pretty ambitious first comic, I'll say that, but I still know in my heart of hearts that I want to complete it and that I'm going to complete it. The only thing is that it begs the question of, should you make a comic and should you wait before making a comic? I think that's the question that every person who wants to make a comic has, or even just an art project in general, is, am I going to have the time and motivation to finish this project? Or alternatively, am I skilled enough to make this project? Like, you're worried that you'll get burned out, you don't have the drawing skills, it'll take too long, and it feels so overwhelming that you don't want to start. I'm sorry for all the mistakes. It's currently almost 9, and I want to get this video out today. Because most of the time, the story you want to tell is near and dear to your heart. Like, you wouldn't want to ruin something you love so much, That's a big reason I didn't immediately start with the animated series I want to make. I'm going to start with this comic, with characters I care slightly less about, and then make another shorter animated series, and then go into my big animated series, the one that it's my life's purpose to make. And that's my first piece of advice, is to start small. Again, this comic was a pretty ambitious one for my first ever visual story. It's got 7 characters, several scenes, all of which are extremely different from each other. But it's also meant to be like a pilot to something I want to make someday. It's supposed to be a little rougher around the edges, and it's also not an entire story. It's like the setup, and I'm not continuing past that, at least for now. So yeah, start small. Only focus on the pilot to begin with, and don't start on your most beloved, most important story. Do something small. Do a short, self-contained story about bugs or something. That's the first example that came to mind. You obviously don't have to do a story about bugs. It's not exactly advice on whether you should make your main story or not, but it is something to consider. Once you do that, once you make your first little story and you get some experience under your belt, you can start to think more about your main story. My dog is sighing in the background. And I myself haven't gotten to that point yet to where I have finished my smaller project and I'm getting into my main story. I'm still making my first excursion into the world of online visual storytelling, but from what I've gathered, the best way to know you're ready for your main story is to think back on how long you've had it. And if you've stuck with a story for a long time, you'll probably want to stick with it more if you've retained it for all these years, And honestly, there's no way to know if you'll stick with your story if you don't start it. A lot of my advice seems to boil down to just make something, but that's really the best way to learn, I think. Motivation and the skill to make something are different beasts entirely. I already kind of tackled motivation in my last video, but I would like to touch upon the topic of skill. In all likelihood, unless you know the ins and outs of your story and the ins and outs of your art style, you're never going to feel like you're skilled enough to start your story. Like, I definitely didn't think I was skilled enough when I started this comic, But that's a good reason to start with a smaller project. That smaller project will help you learn the skills you need to work on bigger and bigger projects, and in the long run, it'll teach you time management, focus, all the art skills you need, like backgrounds and proportions and whatever, and how to stick to a specific schedule. That's another piece of advice: stick to a schedule. Honestly, this 30-day comic challenge has helped when it comes to thinking about scheduling. I'm going to post my comic once a week, and doing all this has helped me figure out exactly how much work I'll need to do every week in order to maintain that upload schedule. I would not recommend the 30-day comic challenge if you also want to make a video every day, because honestly, that was just a whole lot of stress that I didn't need. But I think it is a good idea to work on your comic for at least 30 minutes every day. Like, that helped me get a good chunk of work done that I probably wouldn't have done otherwise. And a lot of days I'll want to go over 30 minutes so I can finish up that one panel or that one face or whatever I need to do. And it'll just be extremely motivating to get those 30 minutes done because, I mean, I've already gotten this far. I should continue. I should finish this sketch or this panel or even this whole page. I've never done one page in a single day, but maybe one of these days those 30 minutes will motivate me enough to do so, you know? I'm not going to call it impossible just yet. I mean, even if 30 minutes goes by and you don't want to work anymore, that's still 30 minutes you've done. Still 30 more minutes of work you've done that if you hadn't worked at all. We love to state the obvious here on this channel. We love to say that if you've done 30 minutes of work, you've done more than if you've done 0 minutes of work. I feel like I've kind of danced around the question of should you start your comic, so I just want to say that, yeah, I think you should go for it. Maybe not your most beloved comic idea if it's your first comic, but if you have a different, less developed idea swimming around in your head, develop it a little more and send it off into the world. Go get started. I feel like this is a repeat of my how to plan a comic video, but I mean, they're kind of similar ideas. So yeah, you should get started. Dang, I don't think I'm gonna have enough script to go around. Maybe I can just shorten the video. I kind of want to get it to 8 minutes before I actually start my conclusion, so I'm just going to talk about Quincy because I like Quincy. More specifically, I'm going to talk about his outfit and outfit design because outfit design is not my strong suit. I feel like it looks very, very similar to Loke's outfit. Luckily, they don't really feature too heavily in a lot of scenes together. They don't talk together a lot. So, you know, it'll be okay. I think it'll be alright. This is my first comic, and I have some room for mistakes, I believe. I mean, that's not a good way to look at it. I should be aiming to not make any mistakes, but, you know, I think it's kind of unrealistic to believe that I'm not going to make any mistakes. One last thing I want to say before I go is, it doesn't matter what your art looks like. Honestly, your art is going to get better, especially if you're drawing a weekly comic, or, you know, however you want to schedule your comic. Even if it's every other week, your art's gonna improve pretty consistently. What matters is the story and the characters, if you really like the story, because if you like the story, you're going to want to stick with it. I'm sorry, y'all. You're going to want to stick with it. And eventually you will have a full finished comic to look back on and think, man, I'm so glad I did that. Because I know that with every finished page I do, I'm going to look at them and be proud. And if you're anything like me, you will be proud too. So go out, make your comics, and show them to me. If literally anyone is watching this video, consider this free self-promotion. That's right, this video is now an excuse to just do free self-promo. If you already have a comic out, leave a link in the comments. I want to read them. Anyways, I'm gonna go drink some soda. I'm not going to tell you what type of soda it is. No free advertising. See ya!